welcome Tarlina. Thank you very much for being a part of New Directions. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you into yoga?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel really grateful, by the way, to be a part of New Directions, and I've mentioned this a few times. I feel that the energy of the group and how the group has come together through amazing leadership and through the education and the synergy of the team that are facilitating these outdoor experiences and training it's really great to be a part of that. In regards to the question about yoga, I feel that I, from a young age, had probably more from a spiritual side, was introduced to elements of yoga. So growing up in a household that practiced Buddhism and had some of those philosophical teachings, I used to actually partake in meditation at the age of 5. So though I didn't have a complete understanding of what the benefits were at a really deep level, subconsciously I was given that opportunity and that, the possibility of exploring it later in my life, or even at that stage, just to, I had I guess some immersion at a young age. And over time, probably, somewhere in my adolescence, there was more of an inquiry. And I have to say that the time that I spent here in Melbourne, where I've lived most of my life, a lot of the exposure that I received was often quite focused on the physical element of the practice. And I have to say that it's over so many thousands of years of it being refined and practiced and shared, almost in a way that was considered sacred, from originally father to son, but really, really before I guess a guru or a teacher could become one. There was just such an arduous process to be able to come to this point. It was considered lifelong education, not just something that would be sort of taught off the cuff or just in a really short space of time. So, it was really moving to spend time in the capital of where yoga had originated from, in Rishikesh, where you can really sense a true difference in how it's delivered, how it's just so much a part of a way of being rather than I'm doing it. I'm doing it for this hour, and it's it's just in this time wearing this kind of dress on this mat. It's so multi-dimensional. It's not sure we focus a lot on the asanas, and I think it's a great introduction for people to find their way to what it is or what it can be, and how it can serve them. But it's also so moving once you begin that journey to explore where it can take you, from a physical domain, as to how far you want to extend yourself, but then also seeing the reciprocity as you draw that into the way that you engage your body and then your mind, even just spending time being able to be still in your mind, and how that then completely alters state management. I find it so interesting that in so many schools where kids are being diagnosed with all these incredibly complex psychological disorders, or just behavioral disorders, and if only these schools understood, perhaps teaching the doctrine of breathing, something so simple, something that the minute that you're born, and the time while you're alive, you have the opportunity to do, and we spend so little time actually really wanting to understand it or giving ourselves the time to. Perhaps it seems like a kind of an unnecessary or meaningless exercise, but it's the foundation, and I didn't realize just how much it was the foundation. So I don't know if I've answered your question, I've touched on a few things, but I see now that where I am in my life now, I cannot imagine not wanting to continue to be a student for the remainder of this time while I'm here on this planet, you know.
Yeah.
That's,
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice then for people that are starting to embrace yoga? So they're starting to do maybe a class a week. Do you believe that do you have some practices or daily habits that you think would be really beneficial for them to incorporate?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to give you an example of a lady. So her name's Anannemyl, and she's now 98, and she lives in, I believe, Tamil Nadu in India. And I managed to organise a call to speak with her because I was like, 98, that's pretty rocking if she's been able to get there to that in that form as well. I'm like, I want to know what she does. So I spoke to her son. He did the translations for us, and he's like, you won't believe this. So this lady, she's 98. She's running a diploma of yoga in India at 98. And a school is like just brilliantly inspiring. And she goes every day. So he's like, every day she spends 5 minutes doing pranayama, which is different breathing techniques and methods. Then she does 20 asanas, so 20 postures. And then she spends at minimum 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, just purely meditating. And I thought, wow, like anybody can actually do that. That's very, very approachable. Now, what is probably the greatest challenge is developing the discipline to maintain the consistency, to observe you becoming yoga than just doing it and doing it once a week. So that would be, I guess, the element that you can really develop and harness and tap into, but only can you really observe the benefits of this practice if you can really commit to at minimum 5 days and then giving that 1 day for recovery. But yeah, I would definitely say if I'm Anannemyl doing doing the 5 minutes, just 5 minutes of pranayama, 20 asanas and 5 minutes of meditation, I think it's approachable for anyone.
Absolutely. So do you just for those that those words are new to them, we'll have a link below just to explain what they are. But also, do you want to explain what the benefits to a person can be? Like I'm assuming we're going to be talking about state and the impact of being in optimal state. So do you want to take it from there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, and I love that there's so much like scientific research and proof to what the benefits are, and I think it's so easy for us to access that information. I think what's probably the hardest thing for us to prove is no science can really examine how spiritually your state can shift, or in terms of your awareness. There's certain elements that you can explore through science, but there's an element of development in ourselves which I would say you can't even provide proof for, if that makes sense. But just looking at elements from your physical side, obviously you've got your flexibility enhancement, you've got your bone density increasing, you've got in terms of the strength and toning and conditioning of your muscles, you've got from a neurological and biochemical sense, you've got a decrease in, if there is, rather than a decrease, we'll say you've got an increase in your release of endorphins and serotonin in your system. So in terms of how you feel while you're practicing this and routinely doing so, in terms of your ability to concentrate and focus. And I think this is probably something that we have so many elements in our life today, in a hyper-connected, hyper-distracted or distracting kind of lifestyle, where just to be able to stay with one thought is almost impossible. It's almost impossible. And yet it is that ability for us to concentrate our energy, our effort and our focus which develops any kind of result of growth and development. So if anything, I would say practicing awareness enables that, and that's one of the most powerful. There's so many. I honestly don't know where to begin and don't know where to end with this, but it's fundamentally, I would say, one of the most pure and authentic ways of preventative medicine for yourself, and you're using just all that you have is your body and your breath. Like it's so simple. There's nothing else that's required. There's no equipment. It's just you you in a space, and using all that you have. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Tarlina.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're an absolute joy to have, and I'm really, really excited to see the yoga classes progress.
Thank you.
And to see you grow even further as a student.
Yeah. Thank you.
Beautiful. My pleasure.